Okay, I'm Gav Jones, and thank you for joining us on the Kenn7 YouTube channel in post-COVID roadmap England, where everything seems a bit more bright. Just before I crack on, don't forget to like and subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you can. Joining me, very luckily, is the lovely Kelly Cates.
Hello, this is very weird because I haven't seen you for I don't know how long, but it's more than 10 years, you
I
know.
know, I know.
Since we've seen.
This is mad because obviously we kind of grew up together. We used to hang
Yeah.
about together in this with the same friends and Dave and Paul and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, this is brilliant. But I've been really excited about this to interview someone who interviews someone for a living, no pressure.
And then you
Obviously,
realise how easy it is.
yeah, totally. So Kelly, I'm going to cast your mind back to 1994.
Okay.
You picked me up to go and get our A-level results in your Beetle.
Oh, Daisy the Beetle.
Daisy. I knew there was a name for the Beetle. I knew there was a name. And there was that awkward moment when I got my results and it was like BC 2Ds. I was ecstatic and you went, are you happy? And I was like, I'm really happy. Yeah. Whereas you got like 4 A's or something and you were like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But, at that moment, was there any thought at that moment about you going into the career that you've ended up going into?
No, I mean, you know that. I was sort of going to go the whole sort of university, see what, and I didn't really have a career in mind, but I was going to go. Actually, at the time, I think I was going to go off and do chemistry at Glasgow. And then I changed that to maths after the first year because I was terrible at the practicals. I kept going into the labs and they go, and you should have, 3.2 grams of whatever. And I'm like, oh, that is not what I have.
Well, the practical bit's the easy bit.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought, oh, that's the bit that whatever happens, that'll be fine. Anyway, I was better just working on the theory and not the practice. So, and then I went into maths, and then I thought, well, what will I do with the maths? And I don't know. I sort of vaguely had some kind of idea of going to do something in the city, but I didn't really know what people did in the city. And I was sort of sitting there waiting for inspiration to strike. And then because it was a Scottish university, it was a 4-year degree. And before the end of my 4th year, I went down to do an interview with Sky because they were starting up Sky Sports News. And they said, oh, come down and do an interview. When I sort of applied, and I was like, yeah. And then at the time, they were just screen testing everybody. Like anybody who worked there got a screen test. And they went, oh, yeah, that'd be, so do you want to come and start working for us? And I was like, I could stay on, finish my degree and do something I don't really want to do and have no idea what it's going to be. Or I could go and work in telly and talk sport all day. So I thought that seems better. And in my head, I was thinking, I could always go back to it if I wanted to. I've done most of it. I could always go back to it. And then I was never going to do that. And the thing is, if it was my kids now, I'd be like, no, you have to finish it. Get that out of the way. And then you've only got a few more months, you'll be fine. And I would never, ever advise anyone to do it. But I think kind of at 45, I've sort of lost the momentum for going back to finish off my degree.
Well, so when did you start getting excited about that as an opportunity, having not been, not grown up thinking that's what I want to do? This just presents itself in your lap and you think, hang on a minute, this.
Yeah, I think not until it came up as an option, really. Because when we did, do you remember the BT ad that I did with my dad years ago? And then there were people sort of saying, oh, there are opportunities around that. She's been on, and I was like, and nothing I ever heard of. Like, it was one of those things that was, and then I think probably that was the first time anybody had ever said, what about doing something in the media? And I was like, and again, just sort of dismissed it, didn't think anything of it. And then I sort of started thinking, oh, it sort of planted a seed really in my head. Not that I want to go and be an actor and do adverts and things like that, because I wasn't good at it. To be honest, I wasn't good at being on the telly either, being a presenter. No, but I had no experience. I wasn't. But because at Sky Sports News, they nobody did. Hardly anybody had. So they gave us like a week's course, a week's intensive course. The really lovely man called Ed Percival, and he taught us in a week a sort of crash course in how to read out loud, basically. But the thing is, I say that, but actually what he taught us, certain things that he taught us during that time that I still have in my head now. So that's
Right.
1998.
Yeah.
And there are still certain things that I keep at the back of my head about, how to get someone to open up, or how to kind of work out if somebody's a visual person, so you can kind of tap into how their memory works and things like that. I don't use it very often, but occasionally little bits of it will come back to me.
But it's been like tone of voice and speed of, of question, I guess, and stuff like that. Is that the type of thing that you did in that first week?
I mean, to be honest, I was 22 and clueless, and it was more, from my point of view, it was more just, it just calmed me down, because I just would go on and go, right. And he was like, when we do these kind of run throughs, he went, it feels as though, because we had little kind of meetups afterwards, and he went, feels as though when you go, and we didn't broadcast to anybody, it just went out in the building and nobody watched it, so it was fine. And he said, it feels as though, an hour or two into it, or however long it was, that you start to calm down. And I was like, yeah, I do. So he sort of said, well, you need to start like that and work out what's going through your head. And it was just all really, really simple, sort of basic things about being more comfortable on camera, and little kind of, I don't know, there were little sort of tips, but he was a brilliant psychologist as well. So he would use all those kind of tips and tricks for us, but also for us to use in an interviewing situation. I mean, I say that like that's all going through my head. It's not. Yeah. It's a bit like, when you learn to drive a car, and if you've got a really good instructor, they tell you all these things that you can do, and then you get on the road and you just drive. It's like that. Right, but there's still sometimes those little bits of advice in the back of your head.
Well, Sky Sports News would have been a baptism of fire for you. I mean, I can't imagine how hard it was. I mean, you were mornings, weren't you? So I think I remember you going at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Yeah. And I mean, that must have been a baptism of fire, be a great learning experience for where you are now. I mean, do you look back on that and think, if it hadn't have been for that difficult sort of run at that stage, then I wouldn't maybe have been progressed as quickly as you has?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult in that I obviously just moved down to London, as you know, and I was working on a Sunday morning and getting up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning to go to work, which meant that effectively put pay to any Saturday nights. And then Friday nights, like, people would be working till later on a Friday night in like office jobs and things like that. And so it meant that my social life sort of grew around my workmates, because they were all on weird hours as well. Yeah. So there was a lot. It was really hard to keep in touch with friends at that stage, because so on a social side of it, it was hard in that sense, in terms of adjusting. I did that for the first 18 months, I think. But then in a work sense, it wasn't like proper work, because although we were getting all our hours in, which you just wouldn't get that anymore. They talk about these 10,000, and I don't think the 10,000 hours is as big a thing as they say it is. But
to become an expert at something, is that what you mean?
Yeah. But just the amount of hours we got in front of screen, I mean, in theory, it was proper telly, like we were making telly, but in reality, it was just practice the whole time. And we were working with young new directors and new producers, and so lots of things went wrong, which we just thought was sort of par for the course. And it just meant that I feel like now I can go in and have a really busy gallery in the background with loads of people sort of chatting, but I grew up with that. So I grew up with people sort of talking about their holidays in the back of the gallery, and sort of going, oh Christ, you better, they're like sort of buzzing through and sort of going, listen, you better stop reading out the horoscopes, because you're coming back in vision in about 3 seconds. We were just young and messing about. It was really, I loved that time.
So I had a little look before, and you started at Sky Sports News, but then, if you don't mind, you did the Big Breakfast, GMTV.
Well, only once. I only did that once on the Millennium Night. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So then GMTV, the Olympics,
Yeah.
the World Cup, Channel 4, ESPN. I mean, it keeps going on. Satanza, Sky, Radio 5 Live, TalkSport. I couldn't believe it was that much. I mean, it's incredible. What have you taken from each medium? You know, obviously you've done radio and TV, and then obviously progressed on to being the anchor, I guess.
Yeah,
what you
I feel it, but when you say that, you forget how much it is. I feel the same way when I go and look at it, because I think I look at it and I think, God, that's the CV of a grown up. That's the kind of person I don't think I am. And you like that's like a Gabby Logan or a Claire Balding or a that's I look at it and or an Eleanor Aldwood. That's like a proper grown up. And I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, but it's one of the best things, because I did Sky Sports News for 8-9 years and then left. And that's when I started doing loads of different bits and pieces. And you're right, you do take something from everything that you do. But it's also, it's just, you learn. So things like Sky Sports News, you do these kind of 2-3 minute interviews. And then when you leave, you can go and sit down with somebody and maybe talk to them for half an hour, and you realize you ask different questions. And so you start to sort of structure your interviews a bit differently. Or like when I went to do the America's Cup, which was ridiculous. That was like 3 months in Valencia doing sailing. I know nothing about sailing.
I remember seeing you on that and going,
what?
Wow.
Is this? I mean, I know she grew up in Southport, but it's like sitting there on the Marine Lake every weekend.
You must have.
Well, I said to them, look, I don't know anything about sailing, and they said, we don't want you to be an expert. We want you to be one step ahead of the viewer, because we know that most people watching won't know much about sailing. Okay. So it was a real learning curve. But because we went over to Valencia, and because we stayed down in the port in Valencia, they had all the different bases where all the teams were, and because we were there before so it's the Challenger Series, which is the one on just now that Ben Ainsley's team have just missed out on, which is the Prada Series now, and it was the Louis Vuitton. So we went for the last stages of that, and you kind of get to know everybody because there aren't many other media there. So you get to know everybody, and they're really helpful. And then when it starts getting to the business end of it, they go, oh, we like those people because they were there from quite early on. So they're nice to you. Right. So we ended up, I know this is meant to be about, what did you learn professionally, whatever, but we had a ball. We had the best time. I was at a party on the roof of one of the bases, and we got taken out. I got to go out on the American boat, and they took me out on an actual race in New Zealand. It was amazing. And then when Spain won, they came down the canal, and there was a bar at the edge of the canal. So obviously I was in the bar. And as they came along, the PR, the communications girl, she went, come on. So we all jumped on, like the cameraman's there with his camera. And we've all jumped on their boat for the last kind of little lap back to the base. And there was a Chinese team, and they only won once because they were brand new to it. And they were sponsored by, Hennessy. So we're like, oh, can we come and film you? You've got a race. And then you go in there like, do you want a drink? We're like, yeah, we probably should. It's the sponsors. And it was fantastic. But it was also genuinely brilliant to go and work on something that I didn't know anything about. But then you realize where the similarities are. Like there was a big row between the two America's Cup finalists. And the guy who ran the New Zealand team was really wily, and he felt football to me. He felt like a sort of, and he started having a go at the Swiss team, Alinghi, about something that wasn't quite right on the boat. There was some tiny mechanical, whatever. And I remember interviewing about it, and I said, is there really something wrong? And he went, what? And I was like, is it really? I said, do you not? I said, is this part of you just trying to put them off and doing that? And he's like, yeah. And you think it's just the same. Like sport is the same across the board, really. But it was just, that was brilliant fun.
If you're enjoying this video so far, please show your support for the Kenn7 channel by subscribing, clicking the like button, and also clicking the notifications button as well to get future broadcasts. If you could also share the video on your Twitter and Facebook account, That will show YouTube's algorithm that you like our content. Have you heard about Kenn7 merchandise? The link is in the description of this video. We have premium fanwear for fans covering Liverpool, Celtic and Scotland, and it's fanwear for young and old, so we have t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, caps, mugs, you name it, we've got it. Just something else to remember, every purchase that is made on our website, we donate to the Marina Dalglish appeal, so you're helping a great cause as well. Just I don't want you to go into massive detail, but I'm really interested. I think other people.
Well, don't tell another story like that, please. It's really boring.
No. But your day. So let's say you're doing Sunday, or you do Friday nights as well, don't you?
Yeah.
What's your day like? How does that work?
So it's the thing is, it's not really. It is a bit about my day, but it's more about the rest of it. So because I do. Like normally, my normal sort of week, it's easier to do it that way. On a Tuesday, I'll do the radio. So there'll usually be either Premier League, Championship or Champions League or, the big EFL night. So I do a bit prep for that in the build up to the Tuesday. Then on the Thursday, I do stuff for PLP, which is the international coverage thing, where we do like an hour and a half show with Ian Wright, where we have guests on and we talk about the big stories that are around at the time. Not a preview, not anything, just so you do a bit around those stories. And then I'll maybe do the Saturday game. So that at the moment is in before the 3 o'clock kickoffs and then stay till the end of the 8 o'clock kickoff. So there'll be the prep. So the guys send out these stat packs that you sort of go through, and the producer will send a running order, and maybe like if there's a VT or something, he'll send a bit of script so it fits the pictures or whatever. And then you speak to him and you chat through what you're going to talk to the guests about and that kind of thing. So it's the days all sort of knock on into each other. Mm-hmm. So you don't do one big whack of prep for a game or a night. It kind of all you sort of top up what's already there. So there's a base, and then you kind of just you add a bit to it for each game. But this season, oh my god, I can't work out what day it is.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Nightmare.
I can imagine.
I just don't know.
And it's you're just constantly game after game after game. And are you? Forgive me, I don't know whether I can ask this, but are you freelance or are you salaried? How does that work?
Long-term contract with most people.
And it's different people, yeah?
Yeah, so it'll be like a couple of years. So with the BBC or with IMG who do the Premier League coverage, or with Sky. So it's all different bits and pieces.
All right, so I want to ask you this. There's been a lot written, especially on social media by men, about women commentators, women pundits and stuff like that. And personally, I think most of them are better prepared than the old football pros who just sort of come on and talk. You know what I mean? Where do you see that argument? What's your feelings on it?
I think there is I think where it started from was Alex Scott going on doing the World Cup on the BBC, and I think what happened was initially there was a brilliant reaction to her because she went in and because she was new, she got given sort of less prominent games, because that's what you do. You kind of work your way up to the big occasions. And I can't remember what it was. It was something like, it was a small country sounds patronizing, but you know what I mean? It was a small country. And she said something like, well, they are vulnerable from set pieces or something. They concede extra. And everybody went, God almighty, because it felt like that was groundbreaking. It was like, oh my God, she's read the information that's been gone to her.
Which is ridiculous, isn't it?
Which is ridiculous, but that was, and I'm massively doing Alex down there. That's not saying that's what she did. But my point is everybody picked up on, it was something like that, and everybody picked up on it. And then there's always going to be a sort of backlash to it. And then there was a backlash. And now every time anybody talks about female pundits, then Alex always gets brought into it for some reason, even if she's not anywhere near the situation. So,
of course.
But I think there are some excellent female pundits. I think there are some fine female pundits. I don't think there are any that are actively bad. You don't get on if you're actively bad. but then I think there are some excellent male pundits and some absolutely fine male pundits. So I think that's when you know you're getting closer to equality. Yeah, but I think that's when you know you're getting closer to equality, is when you don't get hammered just for being all right. Not everybody's going to be brilliant. It's not going to, you don't have to be brilliant to be. This sounds terrible. You don't have to be brilliant to be a pundit. You just have to be good at your job, because most people won't be brilliant.
Yeah, and the whole idea of that is to give an insight to the people watching who aren't like from a tactical background or don't have an inside knowledge. That's what they're there for, isn't it? To give people that extra step, what you said, one step forward sort of thing.
Yeah.
Go on.
And I think that's where there are definitely differences between having played in the women's game and having played in the men's game, and there are differences in having played in WSL or in, I don't know, the championship, in a team battling relegation in the championship or something. You will have different challenges. But the trick with any pundit is to get the best out of them and the best information out of them, because not everybody knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have somebody on who's only ever played in really successful teams, they're not the ones who are going to tell you what's needed when a team's battling relegation. Yeah. So everybody gives you something different. Of course. To expect one pundit to be able to do everything is very rare.
It always makes me laugh when they get a pundit that's played for both teams.
Yeah.
It's like two for the price of one.
I cannot tell you how much stick there is, and certain teams are worse than others for it, if they don't have an ex-player who's represented. Really? Oh my God, people get really arsey. Really? Like really arsey. Wow, how can they possibly have it? It's like, okay, but point to something that is actively not right that's been said about your team, or point to something that is, that they've said that you think is biased. To get it's a general, they just seem a bit miserable if we score. They don't care that much about like your team. And I know you want everybody to care about your team as much as you do, but that's not the job.
Neville and Carragher.
Yeah. They're the exceptions to that, because, but then to be fair to them, they will only do that if the other one's there to balance it up, or if there's someone else there to balance it. They don't like. I think Carragher's probably done it a couple of times with Liverpool in the title-winning season, but not when it's been against a direct rival. I think. But when Gary and Cara do, say, Man United, Liverpool, then I think it's all right then if they show their allegiances, because the other person balances it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, most people watching you would know that your allegiance is to Liverpool, I guess. So, I mean, do you find that hard to show that, to be like Switzerland, I guess? You know what I mean?
No, it's weird, because when I'm working, I don't feel like that. It's not the same.
Right.
And it can be different during the 90 minutes that it can in post, because you go into work mode, and because I'm not being asked what I think. I'm just sitting thinking, right, what's the story? What do I want from each of the guests? It's not that hard. And then there are other times, like I've worked on the radio for the Barcelona 4-0, and it was Alan Shearer was the guest and Ian Dennis was commentating. And then you get those moments where you go, oh my God, like this is actually the story. Like there isn't, I can't go too far on this. Yeah. I don't have to rein anything in. This is just this, and you can just kind of ask them to tell the story, but it's sort of echoing what you're feeling as well.
That's good. So Neville and Carragher, what are they like to work with? And you've got to tell me about the walking off thing. You must get asked about the walking off thing all the time.
Yeah, they're great to work with, and the reason they're great to work with is because they are so enthusiastic. I mean, like to the point almost of being a bit annoying sometimes. They just said at the last night, can we not do this? Can we not do this? Can we not get a helicopter to go up and get a shot of us abseiling down the inside of the ground? And we'll have the chairman he'll be skydiving next to me, and we'll be like, oh my God. But they are so enthusiastic. They're so well prepared. They are just brilliant to work with, and they really they take whatever you're working on, they take it personally. They take it as a kind of reflection of them, so they want everything to be brilliant.
Right.
So it's just great. And the walking off thing, we'd rehearsed it, and Gary's not great on like talk back and things like that. He's fine, like he can do it, but it's like he it needs to be quite like some people have full open talk back, some people don't, except but he has
talk back's what's going on in your ear, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So he doesn't have the full range of voices in his ear. So we've rehearsed it, and because we work together a lot, when we rehearse, we sort of, it's like a technical rehearsal. So it's more to kind of, well, this is where we're going to be, and that's where you're going to go, and the camera's going to follow you here, and whatever. Anyway, so so we do this thing, and I think we maybe did it in the rehearsal, where I made a statement to Gary, and he said, yeah, and then turned around and I sort of said, and you're going to go and interview Ralph Hasenhüttl now. And he goes, yeah, turns around and off he walks with Carragher. But when it actually came to doing it on air, I asked him a question. So I sort of said, I don't even think it was a question. I might have said, like, it'd be interesting to see what the manager has to say, or whatever it is. And he goes, yeah, and turns around and walks off. At which point, and Carragher sort of goes with him, because somebody, like in his ear, somebody's gone, okay, Gary, you can go now. Not like, don't answer the question, just turn and go. But he's taken it as, okay, I can go now. So he's just gone. But the worst part of it was, everybody then started to laugh. Go, where's he going? Right, he's off then. So and then the cameraman on the steady camera thing they wear over their shoulders and the kind of, so he's sort of backing off around the thing. But because he's trying to keep up with them, I'm still in shot in the background, which is that hello, darkness,
looking
the thing. Right. So he's like around, and all I can hear is the director and the producer like crying, laughing, just going, still see you, Cal, still see you, still envision. Yeah, still see, just keep looking. Oh my God. Anyway, didn't think anything of it, because it's the start of the program. We do an hour build up, we do the game, and get up the next day. And I sort of went to look, because I never look on my phone, or I never look at Twitter or anything really after work, for lots of reasons. And I went on the next morning, and I was like, what's going on? Somebody had got really, oh my God, what's gone on? This is just ridiculous. This is a woman and a man's game. This is what happens. I was like, no, this is just not what that is. Anyway, it was all.
It all makes sense.
All fine.
Now. It all makes sense now to me that he's got it right. Okay.
Yeah. Totally. Off you go. Okay.
It's actually really funny that you've asked a question and he just walked off.
Yeah. But also, I'm sitting there having asked him a question, and he's just turned around, and I'm like, what are you doing? Where are you going?
The brilliant thing was that you got your own back. They gave you that answer in the next game, which was fantastic.
Yeah, it was the promo, I think, for the Manchester Derby thing. But we did it, and the thing came through from the guys in promos, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I think it may be, it might be a bit late. We've left it a bit long. It's just going to be a bit like, oh, is it just milking it a bit? Is it a bit of an in-joke? Anyway, turned out no. It was still
not
funny.
Not at all.
All right,
not at all. It was brilliant. Yeah. So, obviously, we're a Liverpool podcast. I've got to ask you about Liverpool.
Yeah.
So it's hard times at the moment.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think's going on? Have you got any insight?
I think what I do think is something that I'd be really disappointed if any of the pundits I was working with gave this answer, because you're like, you want definitive, strong answers. I think it's just that there isn't an answer. I think it's a million different things. I think getting all your centre backs injured and only having 3 is an issue. Having both stand-ins injured at the same time is an issue. Yeah. Those stand-ins missing from midfield is an issue.
Yeah.
And then having the kind of release valve for the front 3 in Jota being injured is an issue, because then they can't get time off.
Yeah.
Your fullbacks can't get time off because you can't have a different back 4. You have 18 different, centre-back pairs, but you can't have a different back 4 every week. So that would just make things even worse. Alisson was out for a bit, but then I don't know how he looked before even he was injured. It all just looked a little bit kind of the come down of winning a title with all of that for the first time in 30 years, not being able to celebrate it, coming back, starting to get the fans back, having a little bit of excitement and thinking, oh my God, we're going to get a chance to celebrate this now. And then nothing, like all just feeling flat. And I think you can't, and this is the same for everybody. I've been in grounds and I cannot tell you how weird it is being in a ground without a crowd there.
Your dad said it was eerie. Eerie
is true, but also flat. It just, you don't get on that wave. You're just not riding that wave of the game. And it's even like I've been at games where there's been nothing really riding on it or anything, but you just don't feel it in the same way. Even things like the build up to kickoff, normally you're waiting, and as we're sort of pitch side building up, you hear the crowd and it starts to, and then the PA system comes on and then nobody can hear anything, and it's chaos, and you feel everything starts, but we get excited and you kind of, you're at that level. It's just not the same. And it's the same for everybody, and in that sense. But I sort of think it's just all those little bits all put together. There's nothing, I don't think there's any sort of silver bullet.
Let me ask you something quite hyperbolic.
Yes.
Do you think we've had a little inkling? I think fans have been taken for granted in the past. Premier League, clubs, the FA have had a little inkling of what football's like without fans. Do you think this is going to have ramifications in the future in terms of the way fans are treated?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I think that there are a couple of things. One is, to be sort of slightly pessimistic about it, is most people around the world watch the Premier League on telly, and on telly you can have crowd effects and it doesn't feel as weird. So I think that's the sort of more sort of pessimistic aspect of it. That's what I'm trying to say. But I think you're right. It cannot. I think maybe individual clubs will appreciate their supporters a lot more because they'll see the difference.
Yeah.
They'll see the difference in the team, and especially teams with fire in their bellies. You know, there are definitely teams who benefited. You look at West Ham and that move to the London Stadium. You know, the West Ham fans hated that. They still hate that stadium.
Yeah.
You know, and it does feel weird, but it feels. There's a brilliant article on this by John Nicholson on the Football 365 website, and he talks about this. And he's like, one soulless stadium is the same as any soulless stadium. It doesn't really make any difference. So it sort of levels the playing fields for them a bit in that way. Plus, I think David Moyes has done a really good job. That's not taking that away, but it's another factor.
Yeah.
But I think there definitely will be clubs where the fans will be more appreciated, where the players there will be players, I think, who will think, oh, I missed that. Yeah. There'll equally be players who'll be dreading fans coming back because they'll be like, every time they lose the ball, we go, oh my God. There's a few players getting an easy ride.
Groan. The chorus of groans.
Yeah.
Listen, you're very busy, so I'm going to let you go. What are you up to?
Oh, I've got homeschooling. One is on Zoom classes all day, so that's fine. Or, Google Classroom Meets or whatever they are. And then my little one's got, she's got a couple of classes here and there. So I need to kind of be around for her to make sure. So nice though. So nice when the teacher goes, I'll take this lesson. You're like, thank you.
It's hard graft. I've watched my daughter change personality in the last few months. She's
really,
because she's normally very happy and gregarious, and she's got attitude now.
Oh yeah, that's age as well though. How old is she?
Maybe, but no, she's lovely. But I do maths, and then Gemma takes over. So it's good.
Oh, the English is awful. Like the English lessons are so boring.
Yeah.
It's just so dry. I hate it.
I totally agree with you. But listen, I'll let you go.
Sorry. Can you tell I don't talk to adults much? But listen, go on, sorry, carry on.
Thank you very much for chatting to me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Gav. I really enjoyed it.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a little like and a subscribe. I don't know what my finger's all about, but apparently the stuff's there. Yeah, it's like, subscribe anyway. But Kelly, thank you very much. And
thanks, Gav.
Cheers. Thanks.